we didn't really see it get picked very much.
Yeah, it was. Annie's definitely an interesting bang. Last week we talked about how Annie can still work as a very well. She can work very well in all three lanes. She can work very effectively as a support, a mid laner, and a top laner, depending on how they choose to run her. But it does look like there must be something from TGR. One of them must be a confident Annie player for it to deserve that sort of respect ban.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, we do see Nautilus and Alistair, two supports that we did talk about a fair amount last week. Very strong in the current meta, definitely highly contested champions. Meanwhile, we see Kalista, Azir, and Rek'Sai banned on the other side. Azir did have the changes, but after playing him a few times, I honestly don't think the changes have hurt him that much. If anything, I feel like his early game might actually be a little bit stronger because of how much base attack speed he has. If you run it with attack speed runes, he definitely has a decent early game, so I honestly don't think Azir's been changed that much. Meanwhile, Rek'Sai and Kalista are also banned, both very strong staple meta picks. And we do see the Elise first pick, same as we saw last game. Very strong jungler, especially in the early game. Chris definitely managed to get a lot of early pressure out with the Elise. And we'll wonder if Enzo will have a slightly better performance going into the mid and late game that Chris did.
Yeah, I don't feel like Chris did particularly bad on the Elise.
No,
it was just that he got kind of
out-jungled a bit.
Yeah, it was a pretty terrifying performance from pretty much the entire Gaming Emotion Black lineup. But let's see if Gaming Emotion White can live up to their sister team's reputation that they've just made for themselves as they lock in the Elise. We do see Janna and Nunu locked in for TGR, so potentially going for something like a protect the AD carry kind of composition. You do see Nunu picked up in that jungle often when you have something like a Vayne in the AD carry position, so I wouldn't be too surprised to see that one picked up.
Yeah, it wouldn't be surprising if they were saving the Vayne pick for a little later on. Alternatively, Jinx might have also worked as a good AD carry.
Yeah.
Very good tower pushing, sieging with a Nunu, but it does look like the Jinx is getting picked away. Meanwhile, another very good sieging champion is that Tristana, thanks to the bombs that you can put on top of towers. Very good and efficient at taking away towers.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we did see a Lulu locked in as well. Now that could be a Lulu support. We did see a lot of that from Bartiono on TCA last week, who had a very strong performance on that Lulu support. We also saw it come out a lot from mid. We know last week again from XL Esports, Ped was a big fan of that Lulu mid. It's definitely a strong utility-based champion that can offer a lot in terms of peel and protection. So we will see where that goes. It could go at this point in either the mid or support. And it works very well if Elise decides to go a bit more on the damage side, because you do have a bit more protection from the Lulu. So
yeah, absolutely. And I like the Lulu pick as well, because I mean, with the Janna and the Nunu locked in immediately, you're automatically thinking, okay, they're looking to protect their AD carry, they're looking to boost their AD carry. Deny the Lulu, that's like the top/mid laner to go for if you're running an AD carry protection comp. So just immediately denies that kind of composition to be able to take form properly. And hovering the Shen as well, so this could well be a Lulu mid if these two picks are locked in.
That is definitely true. We could see a Morgana mid too, however that is fairly unlikely. Morgana's very good at peeling for Jinx, another low mobility AD carry. Definitely good at the job of that. And while you're talking about protect the AD, on the side of Gaming in Motion, they do have they do have a very good protect the AD carry comp with the form of Lulu in the mid lane. And I actually really like this, because one of the major problems with a protect the AD carry comp is all of your damage is focused around the AD carry. However, with Elise in the jungle, they can afford to have Elise go a bit more damage orientated. They can go for the Runeglaive, they can go for the Haunting guys, and they can get that early pen so that Elise is still a threat coming into the mid game, while you can have the full tank Shen and the strong peel from Lulu and Morgana for both those damage center champions. So we will see. I like that comp overall. Meanwhile, on the other side now, we do see Mal's locked in. Now, Mal's is a champion that I used to play quite a lot, and I consider Mal's the anti-tank, right? He is very good at killing off tank champions, and purely because the way that his null sphere works, which is basically a big puddle of voidness, and it does percentage maximum HP per second, and it stays alive for 5 seconds. Now, that also scales with AP, and at level 1 with a bit of HP, it can do up to 7% per second. So it is a very strong damage skill, and against a Shen who will be going full tank, the moment Shen comes towards you, if you just drop your full combo onto that Shen, especially with the additional HP that Lulu will give, it will just rip through that Shen. So it is what I consider to be a frontline killer, a tank killer.
Especially as well when you start to head towards the sort of mid-game, because there's no way Chin is building magic resist in that lane. Against a Gnar, he will be bullied out unless he goes for those ninja tabbies, unless he starts to build that armor. So Wilson will have no issue in being able to melt out that front line, as you said. And the question is whether or not he opts to use that ultimate, whether he uses that on the Shen to pick up the early kill, or whether he tries to save that to get it onto one of the carries.
Yeah, and the thing is, Mal's can provide just as much peel as a Lulu can, just in a different way.
Yeah.
He does have a lot of, his Q does offer a big silence, and it's a big AoE. It can act as either a zoning tool as people are running away, you can catch them as they're running away, or as they're coming towards, you can silence them, helping, that silence is extremely strong, only on a very few champions these days. And obviously with his ultimate, that's it's a very good, locking people in place, giving plenty of peel for Tristana. So I do like this composition. I like composition from both sides. I would argue that in terms of a protect the AD, GIM White do have the stronger protect the AD. However, that's not to say that TGR don't have a good composition in terms of protecting their AD carry. So we all have to see who can utilize this composition more effectively. Yeah,
and I mean, there's more threats coming out from the TGR lineup across the board as well. Obviously, Malzahar is going to be much scarier to deal with than a Lulu. Lulu, generally speaking, doesn't tend to go particularly aggressive, whereas a Malzahar can. You do still have that damage. And Bacon Sizzler procs as well, up in that top lane on the Gnar, depending what kind of build he opts to go for. If he goes for the Black Cleaver Frozen Mallet build, he's not the kind of champion that you can just ignore and like, oh, he's a tank, he's not really going to do much damage, because the hyper procs, plus that attack speed, plus how much he's going to slow you and just be an absolute nuisance, you have to deal with that. And especially when he goes into Mega Gnar form, flashes forward and stuns your entire team, that's not something you can ignore.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But it will depend on how well they utilize this protection from the side of Jinx, because while obviously it is a protect the AD comp, if the AD carry has good positioning, you might not need to protect them at all, and instead you just invest everything into your front line. So while Shen is sitting out on the front line, you can put the black shield onto him, protect him from getting stunned up from the Malzahar or stunned up from the Gnar ultimate. Meanwhile, you've also got all the utility coming out from Lulu, and if they use it at the right time and they use it on the right people, then it'll be very easy to counter TGR's comp, because you have to remember that his ultimate, Malzahar's ultimate, will keep you in place for a full, I believe it's 2 seconds, or maybe it's even 2.5, and you're basically just standing there asking people to hit you. So he needs to time that perfectly. He really needs to pick the right target. He needs to know when to use that ultimate in order to make the maximum use out of it. So
as an AD carry main, I'm pretty sure the duration on the Malzahar ultimate is 10 seconds.
10 seconds,
Pretty certain on that one.
Like a Morgana binding.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's about 2 minutes. But but actually as well, against a Morgana, that Malzahar could be a little bit countered if there's fast fingers coming out from Ginseng. I don't really know how you pronounce that name, but I'm going to go with Ginseng. If he manages to get the Black Shield onto the right target, as we see Wilson go for his Malefic Grasp, it could mean that ultimate is sort of wasted and he doesn't get the suppression. Yeah,
that is definitely true. We should be coming on to the Rift fairly soon, but meanwhile we can do a quick run through of the players from both sides. So just to remind everyone watching at home, we do have GIM White versus TGR. Last game we did see GIM Black versus the Critical Esports, that's with the team, and fortunately the other GIM were successful, so hopefully, I'm sure they're hoping that their sister team can be successful too, so we should be jumping into the Rift. But meanwhile, on the blue side, we do have GIM White for the first game of this best of 3. Chin is in the top lane on Shen. In the jungle, we do have Enzo playing Elise. In the mid lane, we have Loza playing Lulu, and in the bottom lane, we have Jin and Jin playing Jinx and Morgana.
Yeah, we certainly do. The 2 Jins down in that bottom lane. But over on the other side of the map, we have TGR up in the top lane. We have Dino Gnar, played by Bacon Sizzle Prox. Sorry, Bacon Sizzler Prox. In the jungle, we have Swift playing that Robo Nunu. In the mid lane, we have Wilson playing the Malzahar. And in the bottom lane, we have 11-2 and Freudian Slip playing the Tristana and the Janna, respectively. So, standard starts generally across the map. A little bit of an invade going on. Chin and Loz are just trying to get a little bit deeper vision, trying to throw out those wards, but nothing too exciting really going to be happening at level 1, and this is a theme that we've seen throughout the tournament so far. Nobody wanting to do anything too crazy, and obviously this is everything for these two teams right now. Should they lose 2 games, they are out of the tournament, out of the runnings for that spot in the Premiership. So realistically, not wanting to risk anything too crazy as they head into the first couple of minutes of the game, and just wanting to play everything safe, make sure that they're not going to throw away the lead before the lane even begins.
Yeah, we do see fairly standard starts. Neither bottom lane going to take... Oh no, actually I do believe that Swift is going to hand over that Gromp. He's going to smite it away and then hand the Gromp over, which means that the bottom lane from TGR will get that early level 2. Oh, he's not even going to smite it. That's a little bit surprising.
Doesn't even want to smite it.
But either way, they are going to pick up that Gromp, which means they're going to get the early level 2. I'm not sure how that lane will go. I imagine that they still, even with an early level 2, they might not play that aggressively. It depends on, I suppose it depends on how well they get the lane in their favor. But I do want to touch on this mid lane matchup a little bit, because I'm sure a lot of people aren't used to seeing a Malzahar, and I want to run through a bit how Malzahar works during the laning phase. So as you can see, he's got his Malefic Vision, and that basically, if it kills a minion, it'll move on to the next target. So in the early game, it does pretty much no damage at all. So that's the thing that you're going to max. Meanwhile, a hook does that in the bottom lane.
Yeah, nice binding there from Ginseng. He's going to be able to do a good amount, but nothing too much going to follow up from that.
Sorry, I did mean binding, not a hook.
Yeah.
But
close enough.
Yeah, but the as I was saying earlier, the Malefic Vision is what you're going to max first. You might not even take any points in your Null Sphere, because early in the game it really doesn't do very much for your laning. So he's going to quickly level up that Malefic Vision in order to be able to shove the waves and wave clear. Meanwhile, do you see a gank in the mid?
Yeah, Wilson could be in trouble there. The Null Zone is going to go down, but it's not going to do much to Enza. And a good bit of damage traded back from Wilson there. Does have to use his flash. He's going to at least get some pressure back out.
Yeah, so now he's going to have to be very, very careful, because he is pushing the lane, which is basically going to put him in a bad position for at least to be able to just walk up. And with the very strong slow coming out from Loza early on Lulu, if Elise comes back, it's definitely going to be difficult for Wilson to escape.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's kind of one of the downsides of playing that Malzahar. Obviously, you want your Malefic Visions to bounce around between the minions as you get mana back every single time it does. However, if you do that, then you're going to push the lane. You're going to end up getting frozen against if the enemy mid laner plays it properly. And that's not really a scenario that you want to try and get into, for sure.
Yeah, one very unique and interesting thing about Malzahar is his passive, the little voidling that he gets, because at every 4 seconds it basically upgrades and it does a lot more damage, and people really underestimate the amount of damage that comes out of those little voidlings. That's why sometimes we have seen AD Malzahar be surprisingly strong, because of how much damage those voidlings do. So you definitely need to keep an eye out for how those voidlings are used and whether or not they can hurt a little bit.
Yeah, Kisaragi taking a lot of damage, but a nice Flame Chompers onto 11-2. The Ignite is going to go down, and he should be dropping. The shield comes through at the last second as we see Ginseng flash forward for the auto attack, but it's not enough. Freudian Slip playing that perfectly and saving his AD carry's life.
He flashed in front of Morgana. He predicted that Ginseng was going to throw out the Dark Binding, and he flashed, intercepted it, and prevented his AD carry from falling for first blood. So very well played by Freudian Slip. But 11 to a little bit out of position there. He did walk straight onto the Flame Chompers. Clearly hadn't noticed that they'd been put down and got himself a little bit caught out. But fortunately, only his heal was burnt. Overall, they did win out on the Summoner Spell trade, but definitely falling behind now on CS and experience. So.
They certainly are. Obviously, this minion wave going to be pushed underneath the tower. Freudian Slip going to be able to soak up the XP, try and get what last hits he can, but the AD carry, obviously, 11-2, not going to be there for most of it. He has finally arrived back in lane, but that is going to mean that he is almost half of Jin Kisaragi's. That is a weird name. He's going to be half of the CS of Jin Kisaragi, and it's going to be a pretty difficult start for this Tristana. And I mean, both of these AD carries very auto-attack reliant and very much late game AD carries. So if this continues to go the way it started out, this could be really bad news for 11-2.
That is definitely true. Meanwhile, the top lane we haven't really talked much about. We've seen Nara a lot this tournament. We saw it in the last 2 games coming out from the side of Critical Esports. Definitely still a decent top laner in the current meta. Obviously fairly safe as well because he has both ranged and tanky stats available in both the different forms. So very strong top lane. We do have a Shen coming out from the other side, and as we've already mentioned, its whole purpose of Shen is to provide utility for whoever's in danger. So especially in a 5s environment, the high amount of communication definitely beneficial for Shen's. We do see a bit of gank in the bottom lane.
Yeah, the binding not quite going to connect. One thing we haven't actually touched on, which used to be basically the thing to talk about when Elise and Morgana were both picked up, is the ease of picking between these two champions. You land that binding, 11-2, just getting hit by that, just to demonstrate for me, nice guy there. You land that binding, and it just means that the cocoon is basically a free hit. There's no way that you miss that onto that sort of bound target. And it's likewise with the Ahri charm as well. And back when Elise used to be popular, we saw a lot of pick compositions with the Morgana, Elise, and Ahri sort of all being utilized together. And we can see that maybe going to be coming in. The Poacher's Knife actually has been picked up by TGR Swift, and he certainly will be moving Swift after smiting away the enemy camps, picking up that movement speed buff.
Meanwhile, Enza is hanging around in the middle lane, but it doesn't look like they're going to be able to get anything off. But yeah, as you were saying, this is a really nice chain crowd control ability from the dark binding, and we'll have to see how those chain CCs together, because they've also got the Shen to follow up from that as well. So as long as one of them lands, it is single target, but they can definitely pick that single target off very quickly with their chain of crowd control. So nice little combination for getting those picks off. It's very good for sieging under towers and throwing out those blind, well, I say blind skill shots, just aimlessly throwing out those skill
blind
shots.
binds.
And hopefully landing a pick is very good in terms of getting a siege. So yeah, very nice spot there in terms of their nice composition mix-up.
And we'll see if they're going to be able to use that properly in forcing their opponents to rotate. If they can swap between the lanes correctly, if they've got deep vision, as you say, they're going to be able to force TGR to react to them. And if they can do it correctly, they're going to be able to catch TGR in transition with those binds, with those cocoons, with all of that single target CC. And if they can lock down the right person, they should be able to pick up kills off the back of it, and maybe even lock down some objectives. We'll have to see if that will be the case, as Gaming Emotion White going to pick up this Scuttle Crab down in the Dragon area. But with TGR Swift here, doesn't actually decide to go for the steal. With Consume and Smite, he should have been able to steal.
Oh, he failed his Smite, that's why. That Smite that came down actually came from Swift, and Enza still managed to pick it up.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Swift. Unlucky. But never mind. He is not going to be able to grab the Scuttle Crab, but he is going to be able to go and grab his red buff. These bindings have been on point so far by Ginseng. Doing absolute work on that Morgana. We'll see if that's going to continue to be the case as they head towards the mid-game. Certainly, it's what they're going to want to happen, but it's down to whether or not he can follow through with the plan. Whether they'll be able to get the picks that they're going to be looking for. But across the board so far this game, very, very slow and safe start from both these teams, both on almost exactly the same amount of gold. And if you take a look across the map, CS relatively even. Junglers and mid laners pretty much exactly the same. The major differences here are in the top lane. TGR slightly ahead with a 15 CS lead, and down in that mid lane, in the bottom lane, sorry, we have a 30 CS lead built up for this Jinx, and it's going to be a pretty difficult mountain to climb up for 11-2 to try and get back even with the Jinx. If you take a look at the gold, 600 gold lead already on that AD carry.
Yeah, that's pretty big. And it all stems from that early back that The side from Gaming Emotion forced over onto TGR. They did push back 11-2 very early on, already forcing a 20 CS lead very early into the game, and the moment they gained that experience advantage and that pressure advantage, it's definitely put TGR's bot lane very heavily behind. But on top of that, we didn't really talk much about the Jinx Morgana sort of combination that they have, and while we did mention that it provides very good peel for Jinx, the moment you land a binding, the follow-up from Jinx is very, very strong, because you can just throw those flame choppers down on anyone that gets hit by a binding, and this just comes back to the very nice combination that comes between all the team members of the team.
Oh, Ginseng gonna look for the steal. The rocket comes through as well, but Swift, with this Consume Smite, is easily going to be able to secure that objective for his team. Obviously, the amount of true damage he can deal to those neutral objectives. But we do see Wilson in a bit of trouble. That volatile Spiderling chasing after him, but he's going to be able to walk away with his life. Did have to use his flash. He's going to be still alive, which is the main thing for him right now, but he doesn't have any mana. Just praying that those malefic visions keep on bouncing so that he can stay in this lane right now. They are going to be able to clear out the minions, narrowly dodging that binding from Ginseng, who takes a snowball to the face, and he's going to be able to walk away.
Yeah, look at how much damage Enza ends up taking up from the Malefic Vision. I mean, as I said,
he might die.
And he gets first blood!
R.I.P.
Wow!
I don't even know what to say.
Wilson even gets first blood from that.
Wilson is going to be in hysterics right now. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed, Enza. That was
what a misplay from Enza. He must have thought that from his smite he could get the health back from the Raptors, but that smite doesn't give you health back. You want the other jungle item for that. The
thingy. The Trailblazer. Ranger's Trailblazer.
Yes. You want that jungle item. That one will give you health back, health and mana. But the jungle item that he currently has, the Stalker's Blade, doesn't give you that. So clearly a miscalculation from Enza, and now that's giving away the first blood. Meanwhile, in the bot,
Monsoon has to be used by Freudian Slip. Gonna deny the engage onto 11-2, but a lot of damage coming across onto that AD carry, and now we see Enza heading into that bottom lane. He's looking for an opportunity to try and pick up a kill onto this Tristana. Freudian Slip does throw out the ward. He's going to be able to deny that. Can Enza land the cocoon, though? That's the question. He does. The flash doesn't go anywhere. The binding's through, and this is going to be the rocket to finish it off. It's not even necessary, in fact, but Ginseng is incredibly low as Chin comes in with the Shadow Dash. Doesn't land the taunt, though, and we instantly see Bacon having to flash away after teleporting in, so both summoners used from him, and Chin, using the Stand United, still has his teleport available as Swift enters the bottom lane. They're looking to re-engage this one. Bacon Sizzle procs does get the slowdown onto Enza. That's going to be Repel used, but there's nowhere for him to go. Or is there? As Swift gets caught by the taunt, he's going to be going down. Chin does get slammed against the wall by Bacon, but there's not going to be any follow-up, and that is going to be a 1-for-0 for GIM.
Well, I actually think they managed to pick up 2 kills there from the early pickup onto the Janny. You can see that Enza does go in, the tornado misses, and that flash was just another little misplay from the side of TGR. But that was a nice teleport, and then a very good counter taunt from the side of Chin to disengage that. And then they try to re-engage, but it's still a 4 versus 5. They still have crowd control available from the side of GIM White, and while initially this looks like a fairly strong engage, a beautiful 3-man taunt from Jim completely disengages the fight and enables Gaming Emotion to pick themselves up another kill. So very well played from the side of Gaming Emotion. They manage to pick up 2 fairly easy kills as a result of the misplays from the side of TGR. TGR really need to slow down a little bit, because I mean they have a very good protect the AD carry. Meanwhile, in the river,
yeah, we do see Swift in a lot of trouble. He did get caught up by the cocoon. The red buff is slowing him down, but Enza has been caught up. That's going to be an absolute 0 that does not quite do enough damage. Enza just escaping with his life there, but again, nothing gonna come of it. Will he die to the jungle this time, though? No, he's decided that he's just gonna base. Has learnt from his previous mistakes. He's not going to give Wilson a second free kill.
So earlier on during the lane phase, while we were running through the replay, Wilson did use his ultimate, did go all in onto Loza, but didn't manage to get anything of it. And as a result, his ultimate was down, meaning that he couldn't pick up a kill onto Enza. So somewhat unfortunate. If he'd had vision of the river, he could have thrown his ignite down, maybe picked up an easy kill, but wasn't the case, unfortunately. So everyone disengages, no harm done in the mid lane. Meanwhile, the game continues. Still very close for both teams. 21.1k on the side of TGR to 20.9 on the side of Gaming in Motion. Meanwhile, in the top lane we can see... Oh, hook does land.
11-2 in a lot of trouble. One more auto attack will finish it, but the rocket on its own is not enough. And he's going to be able to escape from this one, but this will guarantee them the bottom lane tower. And in the meantime, Bacon Sizzle Proc's going very aggressive onto Chin. One more hyper proc. Will proc Mega Gnar, but he's not going to be able to chase it through.
Yeah, meanwhile the blue buff does get taken away from Swift there. So nice little steal coming out from Swift. Good use of the poacher's knife. I'm not convinced on this item personally, but he is going into the enemy jungle. He is taking away that the buff, so I suppose he is using the poacher's knife effectively.
Like, if there is a jungler that it makes sense on, it has to be Nunu.
Yeah.
But I do agree that it's not the best of items ever. I'd rather just have a Trailblazer myself, just so you can farm through those jungle camps even quicker. But obviously does have its merits, and I mean CS wise it's working out for him so far. 10 CS ahead of the enemy jungler. Enza not having the greatest time of his life, but at the same time Swift not really having that much impact on the game so far. Just one death and no assists.
Yeah, we can see a few interesting item builds now that we've touched on the poacher's knife coming out from Swift. You can see that Nars decided to go for the Black Cleaver against the Randuin's. Now the Randuin's is a little bit surprising. Normally I would see a Sunfire Cape coming out from Shen purely because he's looking to be that split push threat. And meanwhile in the river,
yeah, we see Enza getting caught out, and Wilson just drops that health bar. And this is exactly what you were talking about in Champions. So like the second he catches someone out, that percent damage will just melt through them.
Yeah, and I was going to touch on his item build, the fact that he's decided to rush the Rod of Ages. Now, this obviously makes him a little bit tankier, and he'll scale well going in to the mid game. It obviously depends on your preference. This is definitely a viable item choice on that Malzahar, and it's clearly working out for him. It does look like he's decided to head towards maybe the Morella Nomicon next, which is a little bit interesting. I feel like Malzahar at this point should be concentrating on building more damage, but I guess that's just a preference of him. Meanwhile in the mid,
Swift could be in trouble. Does use that absolute zero. Not a lot of damage going to come out from that one though, as Jinsen takes chunks of damage from 11-2. That bomb going to pop for about half of his remaining HP, and this mid lane tower is going to be sieged down. Can they deny this? Doesn't look like it. Look at the damage coming out from Wilson. The Malefic Visions just munching away at their health bars, and TGR with a very nice group in that mid lane. They are going to be able to pick up that tower, and that's going to put them 1,000 gold ahead of their opponents. And Gaming Motion White starting to fall a little bit behind here. 2 towers behind currently. TGR going to zoom away after smiting away those Raptors. And I mean, Gaming Motion White, this is the team that placed 3rd at Epic Line. Looked incredibly strong, had a good showing against both Infused and FM. But unfortunately, we're just not seeing that same team in this game.
Yeah, it's they have only had a bit of a rough early game. I mean, the matchup for top is obviously in the favor of Nara, and with little assistance from Enza. Enza mostly ganking in the bottom and mid lane means that he's obviously going to fall behind just purely as a result of the matchup. But Shen still hasn't died. He's still been relevant. Manages to pick up 2 assists from the ultimate that he got bot lane. And as I say that, we do see Enza hanging around the top.
We do indeed, and Bacon Sizzle Procs could be in trouble. The Flame Chompers go down. The Cocoon does not connect though, and Bacon Sizzle Procs with the fancy feet is going to be able to swagger away from this one. Not a care in the world.
Exactly what I was thinking.
However, Ginseng has entered the top lane as well, and this is going to change from a gank to a siege as they push on towards this tower. But in the meantime, in the bottom lane, we have exactly the same setup going for this bottom lane tower. So tower for tower trade across the map here.
Yeah, definitely. Fairly even trade. Nothing going to be lost. I do believe that both teams are going to push towards that tier 2, but we can see Loza moving down to the bottom to help defend. Meanwhile, Wilson's still hanging around the mid lane.
Certainly, I'm not sure what Wilson's doing. Chin goes very aggressive onto 11-2. That's not really the greatest fight for him, but at the same time takes basically no damage back.
The top.
So did win the trade, but it's in the top lane. Bacon Sizzle Procs taking a lot of damage, has to flash underneath his tower as Chin teleports in, but the rocket is not going to connect. Bacon Sizzle Procs manages to live through this one, and this could well be the tower advantage. As Enza has to flash away. That's very close. He gets it with the Malefic Visions, and Wilson yet again picking up a kill with that damage over time onto the enemy jungler.
Yeah, we should. Meanwhile, we do see a teleport coming in the bottom lane, but they're just going to disengage from that fight. They've won a fight in the top lane, managing to pick up a kill onto Enza again, thanks to Wilson, and the massive damage, unsuspecting damage coming out from the Wilson. This is again what I call the Victor effect. People aren't used to playing against that champion, and we can see Bacon Sizzle going in for a 1 versus 3, true man mode. He unfortunately doesn't manage to pick up any kills, but he does get away with his life. Then, while they're all low, they believe they can take this tower for free, but then out of nowhere, Wilson comes. He manages to get the Malefic Vision down, and so much damage. And this is what I call the Victor effect. Last week, I ran through what the Victor effect was, and it's basically the idea that people don't understand the matchup. When Victor was first released, nobody had any idea how to play against him or what to do, so they would regularly die. And the same thing here with Malzahar. People see Malzahar, they don't expect the damage. That half of them don't even know what his abilities do because he's so unfamiliar. And at this point, it does seem like Enza's never played against a Malzahar before, because now 3 of TGR's kills have all come from Enza dying to Wilson. So really well played by Wilson, and I think Enza might now finally understand that Malz is not the kind of guy you can take easily.
Yeah, and now he has that Rylai's as well. Obviously, Rylai's previously getting buffed up. The Rod of Ages about to finish stacking. It's on 9 stacks so far. 1 minute to go until that's fully stacked. So both of those items, having recently been buffed, are certainly a lot stronger than they were, and he's going to be doing a lot of damage with those Malefic Visions, and with that Null Zone, the percent damage going to melt through the health bars of the Gaming Emotion White lineup. And honestly, TGR looking a lot stronger than we've previously seen them so far. 3,000 gold ahead of their opponents, or more like 2.5, but the dragon is going to be spawning in 1 minute and 10 seconds. We'll see if they're going to be able to secure themselves that 3rd dragon of the game, or whether we're going to see Gaming Emotion White be able to contest as we see them go towards Loza in the mid lane. But the Whimsy is going to give him the movement speed, but the flash forwards with the Nether Grasp is going to guarantee them this kill. Or is it? The flash comes out from Loza, and he's going to be able to get away with his life. A nice wild growth. Absolutely everything used there by Veloza as Swift gets caught up by the Flame Chompers. Absolute Zero going to come through. Enza taking a huge chunk of damage, has to repel away as Swift manages to flash away from that ultimate as just melts the health bar, stuns them all up against the wall. And now Chin trying to escape from this one. Enza going to be going down yet again as Bacon Sizzleprox is going to throw the boomerang, connects it to the spider and picks up that kill. He's on pest control duty for this game as Chin gets knocked up by the Tornado. 11-2 trying to just quickly finish this tower down. They're going to be able to take that objective. They're going to be able to walk away with a nice 2-for-0.
Yeah, so we can see the flash ultimate burnt from Wilson meant that he can't use it in this fight, but Swift acting as such a fantastic front line. He tanks up so much damage, flashes out, and baits the ultimate from Shen. The moment the ultimate from Shen is down, he can't use it on a target that actually needs it. He does protect Jinx, but at that point, Jinx isn't even taking any damage. Why use it on a champion that isn't even slightly low? Obviously, he wants to get into the fight as soon as possible, but it means that Ginseng ends up falling as a result. And the fact that Loza was forced out of the fight so early as a result of Wilson coming in and using that ultimate to suppress him and force the flash means that he can't support his team. He can't use that protect comp that they've ideally built for, which meant that means 2 extra kills now for TGR. They managed to pick up another tower, and they've snowballed that to a 5,000 gold lead.
They certainly have, and I mean, this is a completely different TGR to what we saw yesterday. They've come out of nowhere, and they're really playing their composition well. They're managing to get these picks and starting off team fights off the back of it. And realistically, with the composition that Gaming Emotion White are running, they can't afford to go for these team fights, and they have to be so much more careful with their positioning and make sure that they don't get caught out. I mean, look at the free wave clear that Wilson brings to this team. He can just throw out those Malefic Visions and just not even be in lane while still CSing.
Yeah, he's at a point now where he can literally just put a Malefic Vision down and it'll clear the whole wave for him. He doesn't even need to be anywhere near it. He doesn't even need his Voidling. It does so much damage at this point because he's level 14. He's got 2 items completed. He's about to have his Morellonomicon completed as well. Meanwhile, we do see TGR getting deep vision down. This is exactly what they need to do in order to push their advantage. They are hanging around the top side looking to get that tier 2 while Shen is split pushing in the bottom lane. And with the TP down from Bacon Sizzle Procs, this is the best decision that I believe that they can do. And they do have a fantastic siege comp. We did talk about this early on in the game. Give the buff onto Tristana as well as the Janna. Just quickly takes that tower.
Yeah, instant destruction there from that bomb. 11-2 going to be able to just drop objectives like a madman. And with this vision control, they could even consider trying to go for something like a Baron bait. There's not really much vision. There's 2 wards available there from GIM. If they could manage to get rid of them, they would have a lot of pressure around that area. But deciding that's not the objective to go for just yet. However, 6,000 gold ahead in favor of TGR. They're certainly taking this game by the handles and just riding it wherever they want to take it. 3 dragons 2-0. I don't know what that was. 3 dragons 2-0. Next dragon going to be coming up in a few minutes. And 5 towers to 3. So basically ahead in all aspects. And it's all about Wilson so far this game. 4-0-1. 20 CS ahead of his lane opponent. And has now finished that Morellonomicon.
Yeah. I can't say I'm a massive fan of the Morellonomicon. To a degree, I can see what he's doing. He wants the cooldown reduction, and he also wants the mana regen. He does have a large mana pool, and now with the blue buff and with the Morellonomicon, he'll be able to consistently spam those spells out. But personally, I would have gone for the Haunting Guise as a third item, as Leandris has been buffed, and with the amount of damage over time that Malzahar has, it can be a very scary item on that Malzahar. So maybe we'll see that coming out a little bit later. But I do expect the Death Gap to be coming out soon. And the moment he's got that, the Gaming Emotion need to be very, very afraid.
They certainly do. And Gaming Emotion may have been caught with their pants down here as they all rush towards this mid lane inhibitor tower. It's starting to get sieged down by 11-2. And just look at the damage this Tristana does. Look at the explosion from that bomb, hitting 4 different members and just chunking them out. And basically, if that happens again, that tower is gone, and that's going to be the inhibitor following as well, because there's no way the Gaming Emotion can win just a 5v5 at this point in the game. And all TGR need to do is keep up this siege, and Gaming Emotion will have to back away and end up losing out on this tower. But they can even, if it's not going to go too well, Chin trying to get the taunt, not going to be able to connect it. If it doesn't go too well, they can even retreat and go for that Baron bait. There's no wards, but Chin could be in trouble as Bacon Sizzle Procs jumps over the tower, but 11-2 gets caught by the binding. He's going to be able to jump away from this one, though. Is Jin doing what he can? Bacon Sizzle Procs in a 1v3 on the backline, but he is so tanky. He's going to be able to leap away, and that is going to be a 1-0 in favor of TGR, as Wilson actually gets polymorphed there to deny his ultimate onto Jin Kisaragi, who's going to be able to just survive. The flash binding doesn't connect, as 11-2 going to be able to stroll away through that jungle. And if they can get away with this one, TGR are going to be able to get a tower and a kill for nothing.
Yeah, we can see that initially Chin misses the taunt, and they see this as an opportunity to start the fight. The moment Bakel's Sizzle Procs has his ultimate up, he goes in to act as a form of distraction to draw the attention of Gaming in Motion, while 11-2 tries to take the tower. Unfortunately, 11-2 doesn't notice the traps, and he gets hit by a Morgana binding and a trap, which really puts him back, stops him from being able to take the tower. Meanwhile, Chin again tries to force them back away from the tower, while Bacon Sizzle Procs tries to protect his team. Unfortunately for them, this is what I was talking about. Malzahar's ability to rip through a tank is just so strong, and he does flash in to try and lock down Jin, but unfortunately he gets polymorphed. They're unable to take the kill, and because they're so low from taking so much tower damage that it prevents them from getting the inhibitor. So Gaming in Motion do stop them from taking the inhibitor, but they do lose their inhibitor tower as a result, as well as their tanky top laner, who only now he has really got very little magic resist, and it's just not going to be enough to be able to deal with the powerhouse that is this Wilson.
Yeah, and this is something we talked about in Champion Select as well. He has to build that armor in lane against the Gnar. There's no way he can't, because he'll just be forced out of lane constantly if he doesn't. And then the second you hit the mid game, you've got this Malzahar to contend with that's doing % damage. If you only have health, he's going to melt through that health bar in no time at all. And Gaming in Motion, Are they going to go for that Baron? I don't think that would be wise, but we are going to start the fight as Chin comes in with the Wild Growth onto him. That's 2 of them locked down. Wilson could be the one falling as the Flame Chompers connect onto him. He's stunned down and he goes down. Shut down in hands of Loza. And the Rocket's almost taking down Freudian Slip with AoE as TGR Swift gets slowed down. That's a second kill for the GIM lineup, and suddenly they've turned this game on its head.
Yeah, they should be able to get a Baron out of this as Chin goes back to deal with the push in the bottom lane. They caught them completely out of position. They could have full vision of seeing what they were doing, and that's just 2 completely out of position against 5. They don't need to be there. There's no reason. They've got Tristana pushing around the bottom. They have plenty of vision around the Baron, and they don't need to get caught out like that. That reset enabled Jinx to catch up to Swift and pick up 2 kills. Now that's going to be a Baron heading over to Gaming in Motion. That's going to bring them straight back into the game. They are still behind in gold, but with the superior vision and being stronger at that point in the game, they really didn't need to throw away a Baron like that. That was a poor decision making, caught completely out of position.
Yeah, and now we see 11-2 picking up the 4th dragon of the game for TGR. So there is a lot that needs to be done for Gaming in Motion with this Baron. If they can't pull any objectives off the back of this Baron buff, they are pretty much losing the game off the back of it, because if they're not in a position where they can contest this 5th dragon that's going to be coming up, then they are in so much trouble. That aspect of the dragon, the ticking true damage onto 5 members from Wilson, if he can get a decent null zone, there's realistically no way that they can deal with that true damage ticking away.
That is definitely true, and while the Baron will buy them plenty of time, they have the wave clear on the side of TGR to be able to hold them off. So Wilson does do a lot of damage with the Malefic Vision, and with the null zone, he will be able to clear that wave fairly quickly, as well as the rocket from 11-2, preventing that siege. They might get a tower or 2, but they should have sufficient wave clear in order to deal with it. Meanwhile, Wilson does take a chance.
Oh, Wilson gets caught by the cocoon, actually. He's going to be able to get away, though. They don't want to commit to this one as Enza repels away, and realistically, the gold difference right now does not reflect who's in charge of the map. With this Baron buff, suddenly Gaming in Motion have just taken a commanding lead in regards to map pressure and in regards to vision control of this red side jungle, and they're pressing in on 2 different lanes. Wilson has been forced back into his base. The question is, can they pick up these towers? Can they force these objectives? Because they certainly need to at this stage, and the tower is going to be shielded by Freudian Slip. The cocoon followed up from that binding. It's going to force the shield from that Aegis of the Legion, and the tower may well be going down. Kisaragi trying to do what he can as Swift gets caught by the binding. He could be in a lot of trouble. The rocket going to come through, and it does finish him off. That's going to be the Nunu going down, and this could well be an objective finally secured for this Gaming in Motion lineup. And in the meantime, Chin's still down in this bottom lane. He didn't even have to use Stand United for them to get that kill. And this is going to be the tier 2 tower going down. They could even maybe pressure on towards this inhibitor, but a nice Q coming out there from Wilson is going to deal a lot of damage to this GIM lineup. He's looking for more, gets the silence onto Enza, but he's not going to be able to follow it up.
Yeah, this all comes from what we were talking about in the early stages of the game, where as long as one piece of crowd control lands onto the enemy team, then it can be easily followed up. And you saw that right there when it came to Swift. Swift had taken a large amount of poke from the annoying abilities from the side of Gaming in Motion, and eventually he gets hit by a cocoon, followed up by the Flame Choppers, followed up by a binding, and that's about 6 seconds of crowd control that he can do absolutely nothing about. So if that keeps happening under the tower, that's exactly what happens. You get picked, they enables them to be able to take a tower for free, and now with the Baron, with the extra tower, that does bring the gold lead a little bit closer. It's now just 3,500 golds, but they are posturing around the dragon. It's still quite a way away yet. The Baron buff has gone, but definitely in a good position. Meanwhile, we have to take note of Jin Kisaragi this game, because he has now completed his Bloodthirster. So he's at 3 items now. Definitely a force to be reckoned with. Level 14, a little bit behind in levels, but with the composition, he's definitely in a position to carry this game. They do have the comp to keep him alive, to keep him protected, and enable him to do the damage that he needs to do to win this game. So it's unfortunate that all the pressure has to be put on Jin Kisaragi at the moment, but that's the only realistic way of Gaming in Motion closing out this game.
I like your pronunciation of that guy's name. I can't quite get it the same. It's Kisaragi for me, I'm afraid. But they certainly are in a good position, but with this Baron down, they only managed to get that one tower off the back of the Baron buff. Is that going to be enough, or are TGR going to be able to pull themselves back into the lead? I mean, the gold lead is still in their favor, their tower lead is in their favor, the dragon lead is in their favor, but in terms of map control, they just don't seem to be on the same page as each other. They're not able to contest this vision, and we see Dragon's going to be spawning in 1 minute and 30, and Gaming Emotion are well aware of this fact, trying to get vision control of that Dragon Pit. And honestly, I feel like this game is on a knife edge right now, and if Gaming Emotion can deny this 5th Dragon, it definitely could bring them towards the victory. However, if that 5th Dragon does go across to TGR, it could be lights out for Gaming Emotion, as that aspect of the Dragon buff is just so powerful.
Yeah, well, it's all about momentum. The fact that they lost that Baron has really made TGR lose that massive swing that they had. They had a lot of confidence with the early lead that they had. They were making proactive plays. They were constantly getting deep vision into the enemy jungle, and now that they lost the Baron, all of that has gone. It feels like their confidence has shifted, and now Gaming in Motion are in control of the game. They're the ones that are making the decisions. They're dictating the pace of the game, and now all TGR need to do is they need to reclaim. They do have decent vision around this dragon area. They need to maintain this vision, get strong control, and then fight for this Drake. And if they can get this Drake back, their confidence will come back, and they'll be able to start making the correct decisions to close out this game, because in terms of their composition, they definitely have what it takes to take Jin out and close out the game.
Yeah, let's see if they're going to be able to do it, as the Dragon's going to be spawning in just 11 seconds. And, I mean, I fully expect a team fight to come out of this one. Wilson wants to go down to that bottom lane to farm, but this is not the time for farming, my friend, as the biggest fight of the game so far should be about to happen. Scuttlecrab has spawned. That could well be the catalyst for the battle, as Jin positioning very aggressively onto Swift, who's taking huge chunks of damage. Gaming in Motion looking very strong heading into this battle, getting a lot of poke down onto the enemy Nunu. But looks like the positional advantage is going in favor of TGR as they start to melt down this dragon. Are they going to be able to get it? Yes, they do, as Bacon Sizzle Procs comes in with the Gnar ultimate. Enza trying to do what he can, but Chin gets caught up by the Nether Grasp. He's going to go down, and it's a 1-for-1 so far. Ginseng with a 4-man Soul Shackles, but it doesn't stun enough people. The double kill comes through for Wilson, and he's looking for more as he jumps onto Enza. This is going to be the triple kill for him. The Malefic Visions is not going to pass on, though, as Freudian Slip is looking to chase these guys out, but he takes a huge amount of damage and is going to be taken down.
He's going
Jin
for the penta.
is doing what he can. Can he get the pentakill? It's going to be Swift dropping quickly, but it's going to be 11-2 taking the kill away from his mid laner. After all of that, it's a 4-for-4, and both mid laners still alive.
What a chaotic fight. I mean, we're going to bring a replay up on your screen. You can see how low Swift has got him, but Bacon Sizzlebrock's forcing everyone back. They make the correct decision to just go for the Drake. They manage to pick it up, and then they start the fight. Beautiful 3-man ultimate coming out from Bacon Sizzle. Unfortunately, he doesn't knock anyone against the wall. He doesn't stun anyone up. He doesn't actually land any CC, and he ends up dropping as a result. But at the same time, Chin drops as well, so he doesn't get a chance to throw his ultimate now. And at this point, all of TGR are disengaging, and Gaming Emotion make the poor choice of continuing to chase. It enables Wilson to be able to get a bunch of damage from his Malefic Vision and get their triple kill. Now, at this point, they should disengage. They get too greedy, they chase for kills when they shouldn't, and it enables Jin to pick up the first kill, and he then gets a follow-up kill thanks to the mispositioning and not respecting the abilities that stood up for TGR. So it ended up being a 4-for-4 overall, and now there's only one dragon buff left on top of Wilson. So bit of a misplay coming out from TGR. They should have taken the lead that they had available to them, but now it does look like they're hanging around the Baron.
Yeah, and realistically, I don't see any reason why they don't just go for this. They have the aspect of the dragon. They want to start these team fights, and it doesn't last for that long. And in fact, as I say, it has just dropped off, so maybe a missed opportunity there. They could have tried to just force a fight straight away, but this is going to mean that the Baron is certainly all up for grabs for both of these teams. Let's see who's going to take the upper hand here. Both teleports are available. We should really see Chin going off to try and get some pressure in another lane. Has both the Stan United and the teleport, but Enza with the Whimsies looking for a pick onto anyone he can find, but Swift zooming away with that Talisman of Ascension from Freudian Slip. However, Bacon Sizzler Procs looking for the flank. He's not quite going to find it. And both teams just backing away from this island. This is so tense for these teams. Neither team wants to go for that bad engage. They don't want to be the ones getting caught out, but they're both at the same time looking for these opportunities to push forward. The aspect of the dragon animation is still on Wilson for some reason, but I assure you the aspect of the dragon buff has just about timed out.
Oh, he still has it.
He does. Why doesn't his team have it? Oh, right, yeah, he was the only one that lived. I'm an idiot, but it is about to time out.
Yeah, it is just about to. Yeah, it just timed out now.
There you go. So I misinformed you earlier. I apologize deeply.
But he does have the Leandries completed now, so that's basically the same thing.
Maybe not quite the same thing. Not quite. The Talisman of Ascension used again. Basically throwing that out on cooldown, obviously.
Over to Baron.
You want to use those things on cooldown just to maximize DPS. Oh, wait. That's World of Warcraft. But they are going to be able to clear some vision with that Oracle's lens. They're going to be able to get complete vision control of this area as Chin looking to try and find... Yeah, it is a pretty animation, isn't it? Very, very nice on that skin from Wilson, but... Gaming Emotion going to start to pressure down towards this mid lane, but immediately the Baron going to be started off by Swift and 11-2. They certainly can. A lot of damage coming out from these guys. Tristana easily has the damage, but Chin is here to ruin their day. Immediately Gaming Emotion see this coming. The Flame Chompers land onto both carries right now. Actually, that was a support and a carry, but even still, they cannot follow through onto it. They're going to have to just back away, and this is something we keep on seeing from these teams. Just not
starting the Baron.
Able. They are going to be able to start this Baron, and
it's going to go
with
quick.
The huge minion wave in this bottom lane, Gaming Emotion cannot battle for this one. And look how many minions there are. A nice slow push set up by TGR. And with that, they're going to be able to take control of the Baron and potentially take control of the rest of the game. Dragon going to be spawning in 1 minute and 25 seconds. Let's see who's going to be the ones to take it. If it is TGR, it could well be the end of the game. Could well spell disaster for Gaming Emotion. But let's see if they're going to be able to contest for this one.
Yeah, with the they managed to force a fight around the Baron pit, and while it did look like they'd caught Wilson out, they just couldn't commit too hard because Bacon Sizzle procs and Freudian Slip were there to support him. So once those abilities were down, they took a bit too much damage from the poke and from the damage from Wilson and 11-2, which forces them back. They have to disengage, and with no vision, they easily take away that Baron buff. So now in a very good position to be able to take this 5th dragon once again. Meanwhile, I wouldn't be surprised though, with Bacon's Baron buff up and teleport up, they could easily put him in another lane, get him split pushing, trying to apply that pressure to one of the other lanes while they hang around this dragon. But that isn't what they're going to do. They're going to keep him nearby, charge that rage bar up.
Honestly, the way TGR are positioning, I feel, is kind of incorrect at this point. They're so far ahead in gold, they should be going deeper towards this red buff to try and get deep vision, to try and deny any vision from Gaming Emotion. If anything happens, they can disengage with that Janna, with that Gnar. They could have had a much better grasp on this Dragon Pit, I feel, but the Dragon is now live. It has spawned, and immediately we see them start this one off. TGR are going to be able to grab this objective. Aspect of the Dragon is on these members. So is Baron, and this could well be lights out. The Flame Chompers are going to deny the immediate engage. But we see them now heading towards this mid lane, and honestly, I don't see much of a chance for this inhibitor surviving right now, and this could well be TGR pushing towards the victory. This is all or nothing for Gaming Emotion right now. They have to force this fight, but realistically, how do you fight against this? Tristana critting for 1,600 on those minions. Crazy amounts of damage. Swift getting caught by a binding. There's the taunt onto him as well. Decent amount of damage across onto him, but they cannot quite finish the kill. The repel comes through, but it's not enough. Malefic Visions, plus the aspect of the Dragon, just does so much damage from Wilson. Didn't even have to ignite, and picks up the kill onto Enza. And now they head towards this bottom lane. They've got that middle inhibitor, and now they can just pretty much go wherever they want. They can use this aspect of the Dragon and the Baron buff to just finish this game out. Grab all of these inhibitors, grab every objective they want, and maybe even push for the win. 28 seconds on the Spider before she respawns. Let's see if this tower can be defended, but honestly, I don't think it will be.
Yeah, with the tower pushing, with the ability to push and the wave clear from aspect of the dragon, they clear these waves and take these towers even faster than they already do. Meanwhile, Taunt does land.
Yeah, onto Freudian Slip as well. There's a lot of damage. Can the rocket go through? It's not going to even be used. In fact, they decide to hold that one, but it is going to mean that the tower doesn't get taken down straight away. The Baron buff has now run out. Aspect of the dragon only having about half duration remaining. Gaming Motion chasing for this one, but honestly, I don't think you want that team fight right now.
Oh, they have lost top tower.
They have. There's a massive minion wave up there, pushing away against that inhibitor tower, and that is going to mean that Bacon Sizzler Prox is going to have to head up there to stop that taking an inhibitor. Huge amount of caster minions there, and it is going to mean that Gaming Emotion, despite the double buffs coming out across the entire team for TGR, are still in this game, only losing one inhibitor, despite the aspect of the dragon and the Baron buff.
Well, while that is decent in terms of what they lose, a bit of a misplay from TGR, not realizing or recognizing that there's a massive minion wave in the top, so they do lose a tower. Unfortunately for them, not the most optimal decision making. However, now with the middle inhibitor gone, they can keep Bacon Sizzle Prox in the top lane. They can keep him split pushing. He should be at a point where he can shred through Chin fairly easily. He shouldn't have much of a problem with Chin, and the rest of them can just apply pressure in the bottom lane. They can force this tower, and they can do this split push like they should have been doing from the start.
11-2 just got a elite crit there, hitting for 1-3-3-7. There it is. Check that out. Elite. Too cool for school, that guy, but Chin is looking for the engage, looking for the shadow dash. He's not going to be able to find it though. As Swift narrowly dodges that cocoon. That could have been disaster for TGR, as the teleport is going to come through from Bacon Sizzler Prox, but he cancels it in the end. And he's going to stay up in that top lane.
Questionable decision making. I'm not sure why he would teleport to that ward. They did have a ward slightly close to the enemy base, which means they could have got a nice flank around. They could have come in from behind. And with the active Talisman of Ascension on Janna, they could have gone in there, but they decided not to. Now with the TP down, they are going to keep Bacon Sizzle in the top lane, going to keep that pressure play. Meanwhile, in the middle lane,
there's super minions pressing in onto these Nexus towers. Someone has to go and defend that. And with only 3 people remaining, TGR, you have to pressure that. Where are you going? They're going up towards the top lane by the looks of things, but I really feel like they could have just took bottom inhibitor there. Chin gonna be trying to defend this top lane tower, but the whole Gaming Emotion white lineup is gonna be here in TGR. Despite this global pressure that they have, are not gonna be able to pick up another objective.
I'm not sure why they're playing so scared. I mean, they have the gold lead, they definitely have the item lead, and all they really need to do is force a fight. I mean, there was massive amount of pressure in the mid lane. Loza had to go and deal with it. They had the numbers advantage. They had Nara in the top lane. They could have forced that bottom tower, as you said, but instead they walk through the enemy base. Janna has to flash over the wall, and very questionable decision making coming out from TGR. They had such a good early game. They had a lot of promise in their teamwork and their team playing. They managed to snowball a lead against a very strong, or arguably strong, Gaming Emotion white lineup. And initially, their decision making, while it was good, they seemed to really struggle with closing out this game.
Absolutely, we are unfortunately gonna see a quick pause. One of our players is lagging, so obviously at 50 minutes in the game, you do not want to end up losing the game because somebody gets a bit of a ping spike and gets hit by a binding. And the camera is going to swap just as Andy takes a drink, so rookie error there. You should have known that that was going to happen, but we are going to see across the board some pretty impressive scores on both sides here. Both AD carries doing incredibly well. And as well, I think Wilson so far has been kind of the player to watch in this match. The Malefic Visions doing so much damage multiple times, and Enza really has been sort of the butt of that joke. He's died to that Malefic Visions a lot of times, and it's kind of deceptive the amount of damage it does, because you go in as that Elise and you go, oh, I've still got Repel, I've got everything available, I can escape from most fights. He repels up, even on like half HP, with that aspect of the dragon. Even while you're in the sky, your health bar is just ticking down, and you have to leave the fight so much sooner than you would have expected to have to.
Yeah, that is one of the problems with Elise. She either does very well in the early game and she seems to be unkillable, or she has kind of a weak early game and then she's kind of squishy for the rest of the game. And because of the Victor effect. I'm going to make this a thing. I'm going to keep telling people it's called the Victor effect, and it'll catch on eventually, but he didn't understand the damage that came out of Wilson. He was maxing that Malefic Vision, and that first blood was just so unfortunate. It was so miscalculated, and all from that, Wilson was able to go back. He got that Rod of Ages so early. I believe he got it around the 12-minute mark, and that is such a strong item on the Malzahar. It makes him both tanky, and it helps him scale really well into the game, and now he's full build. I'm not sure why he's decided to go for Zhonya's. I mean, he's only died once this entire game. He's barely been focused.
He's not really been in trouble at all either.
Exactly, and I feel like with a death cap, he could do so much more damage. I feel like he would be able to just destroy anyone on that on their team. So we are going to be jumping back into the game. It was only a quick pause. Jin Kisaragi did have a few lag issues, but those seem to be resolved now. Meanwhile, both teams posturing around the Baron.
They certainly are, and we see Chin clearing away the pink wards, trying to do what he can there, but not going to be able to clear all of the vision, as they don't really have much in the way of vision denial. Only 2 sweepers remaining, no pink wards in the pockets of the Gaming Emotion lineup. Both teams going to have vision of that Baron pit, so nobody going to be able to go for a sneaky objective there. And Loza going forward very aggressively, has to back away again, and the inhibitor has now respawned for Gaming Emotion, so they are still in this game. The pressure has subsided. They're going to be able to head towards this mid lane again, trying to do what they can. Ooh. Swift narrowly avoiding that Shadow Dash. He's going to be able to walk away with this one. And honestly, this is on a knife edge now for these two teams. But I do feel like they should have already been won. TGR should have pretty much ended the game in that last push.
The problem is they have no hard engage, so as much as they want to start a fight, it's very difficult for them to do it. They do have flash up from Bacon Sizzle procs, and the moment he gets off your flash taunt!
The flash taunt comes out from Chin, but Wilson is going to be able to go with the Zhonya Swift using that absolute zero. Hits 4 members, but he gets polymorphed and taken down by the Death Rocket. It's a 1-for-1 so far, as we see Elise drop, and now Bacon Procs is looking to do what he can. The silence comes across as Loza is going to be dropped, or is he? Bacon Sizzle Procs doing what he can. The Wild Growth comes out, but he's going to fall, and now 11-2 is going to get taken incredibly low. The Ignite is not going to be enough, though, as the double kill comes out. The Ace comes through, and this is going to be game for TGR. They press in towards the mid lane. They're gonna get this inhibitor, and they should be able to end the game. There's a minute on the respawns of every single member from Gaming Emotion, and TGR, if you can't end it this time, there is no hope for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I was questioning whether or not that Zhonya's was worth it, but at the end there, it definitely proved to be worth it. The flash taunt, and the moment that taunt was down, he successfully managed to Zhonya's and prevent all the damage. Really well played by Swift as well. He got in front of Malzahar. He prevented anyone else from following up, and that's gonna be the win for TGR. So really well played from the side of TGR. Very impressive. This wasn't exactly what we were expecting, and we're going to show a quick replay. You see the flash taunt, really nice, but the Zhonya's immediately prevents any of the follow-up. Swift gets in the way of all the damage. He's just taking as much damage as possible. A really nice ultimate across all 5, and at this point, this is when they decide to re-engage. Bacon Sizzle now, with his ultimate available, jumps back in. They quickly pick off the kill onto Enza, and now they can just keep chasing. Wilson at full health, 11-2 at full health, and they are just destroying them. Like, they do their very best to keep Jin alive, but unfortunately it's just not enough. And with the damage coming out from Wilson, I mean, it was just incredible.
Yeah.
I wonder whether or not they're actually going to let him have that again, because I feel like while he had a very good game, there are ways to deal with Malzahar. Yeah. Especially by not giving him first blood by dying to your own jungle creeps, I feel is one of the main ones, but
well, I mean, it's a similar one to Varus, isn't it? In that you have a lot of power on that champion, but